Oh! If you listen carefully, Husky, you can hear the music has something that sounds like a trumpet in it. Listen! Well, it doesn't anymore, but it started out that way. It is the GeForce SC2 Pro-Am presented by NVIDIA. I'm Day9.
And I am Husky. You know what, Sean? Casting with you, always a pleasure. And these probably aren't going to go up before MLG, but I just want to say I am looking forward to casting that with you. That's going to be a lot of fun. But for now, we're in our casual little dark room casting this. So, spawning in the top right side is going to be MMA. He's currently down 2-1, but had a very impressive game that last game. And in the bottom left side is going to be IM's MVP. Man, I don't even know what to expect here, Sean, because this map completely different than the last one. You can still see a lot of macro stuff, but just look at the minimap. It is much smaller than Terminus, so I don't know that we're going to see 20 command centers this time.
Terminus looking like a large cauliflower. This map looking like a very angry crab. Those are two completely different types of food to eat and very different styles of maps. IM MVP needs to win only one game to advance to the next round. This is round 3 of the winner's bracket, and again we see deviations so early. MVP going for the barracks first. MMA, who needs 2 wins right now, going for the gas first. There's the barracks planting for MMA, allowing him to build anything.
And Sean, one very important thing about this map, we almost see it every single game in TvT, is that siege tanks positioned outside of the main anywhere is absolutely devastating. Down here, it can lock down a lot of the production facilities, and even outside of your natural on that left side can start bombarding your main base, and that is something that is so crazy about this matchup. Now, we always talk about positioning in TvT. On this map especially, I would say it is so vital, because if you are in the defensive position, if you allow your opponent to get anywhere near your base, like that barracks right there would be in range of the siege tanks on the low ground.
This barracks is dead barracks walking.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is dead to me and to everyone, in particular to MVP. As long as MVP can get tanks here, he is conditionally dead. This is Schrodinger's barracks right now, Husky. And we see a very fast command center for IM MVP, and he immediately double gasses. And because of my spider sense, saw the last game,
right,
I'm expecting MVP to build a second barracks and get very fast factory as a follow-up.
And right now he's going to wall this in to try and hide it. Neither player opting to even scout each other, as they do seem to have a good feeling of what they're going to be doing. But we do have a Reaper on the way right now from MMA, and this seems to be the patented Slayer's opening. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Hellion out of there. Now, he's not going to be able to bust up the ramp with that Hellion if he does decide to get one super early, which he does. It's on the way right now, unless for some reason that depot is down. But at this point, I mean, again, this build isn't necessarily to completely crush your opponent, but it does prevent any sort of, if there's something proxied in the center of the map, you're very likely to find it, and it allows you to get that scouting in, and there's always a little bit of threat of doing some harassment with that Hellion and the Reaper.
Husky, I cannot agree with you more. So in fact, I'll just agree with you again in a very long way by re-emphasizing what you said. This early Hellion Reaper combo, very, very effective at dealing with the ever so occasional proxy 2 barracks play. Allows you to have all that bonus damage versus light and have the production that you need to get ahead in life.
Yes,
so
and also the map
like
control too, which he has right there. And he is going to try and get up here, but good positioning there from MVP is going to hold this off. And did he scout that barracks, or the factory? I'm curious, Sean, did he see that?
He definitely did see the factory. We're not seeing the second barracks.
Gotcha.
Plant. MVP could possibly be going for a very fast starport. Indeed he do. He is, and amazingly, MVP only a little bit behind the starport timing from MMA, despite getting a whole extra command center in between.
Now, you can see that he's going to have a lot less units, so MVP is going to be throwing down that bunker. He's not quite sure what's going to be headed his way. Now, on this map, it is very difficult to secure that natural, so you'll see a lot of Terran players. If they go for that early barracks, oh, that looks like the Reaper getting taken out. If you go for that early command center in the main, you're just going to leave it there for a while and start making SCVs out of it, of course, using it for that mule energy as well. And on top of that, if Banshees show up outside of his base, he can have an additional scan. And look at the unit tab here. Identical worker counts, but Marines versus Hellions is what we're looking at right now. But at this point, MVP is safe inside of his base because there's no crazy super early Banshee or anything like that. It does seem like he will be able to hold off anything that's thrown his way. The starport, I mean, just a little bit delayed lifting out those buildings, but that is just going to buy him a little bit more time.
You know, one of the big disadvantages of this exact style, this big Blue Flame Hellion style, you have the versatility of getting Vikings or Banshees or Ravens or whatever you really need at that point in time, but it means that one scan finds all the buildings and all the add-ons. You know, a lot of times if you're doing something like just regular Marine tank, you can hide a barracks here, you can hide a barracks here and plant a factory at the left, and one scan will never be able to see everything. You can't get a good idea of what's coming down the pipeline.
Now, it is difficult on this map to hide them effectively, especially in TvT, and the mains on this map, I think they're one of the smallest mains of any map ever, and especially with those siege tanks, there's basically no safe place to build in this matchup, so it's always an interesting scenario. Who is going to get the siege tanks out their their opponent's base, or are they going to rely more on drop play? We did see a Raven on the way being produced, I believe, which in TvT, it seems like one of those things where if you're playing on ladder, you're like, I can't make a Raven now, I'm going to get crushed by a lot of units, but both these players know the metagame so well that they know exactly when they can get the Raven out in time, and you can see both players are going to be getting that Raven. Now, we do have 3 factories on the way for MVP, but his expansion timing is actually going to be a little bit later than MMA's, as he's going to try and safely expand right now, but he's going to have to deal with these Hellions.
And you know, Husky, one thing I really, really like about this supply depot is that this isn't just a regular old build a depot there. A lot of players see it and think, well, I can build depots here too. But what I love so much is that it's map control that's allowing MMA to do this. MMA has these Hellions planted at the front. If MVP tried to build a supply depot back here, I guarantee it would not go too well.
Yeah, especially, and look at this. If you're sitting here wondering why he's not attacking that command center with these Hellions more heavily, because the arc is more important here. There's virtually no way he's going to kill that command center with the units that he has on the field. I mean, Hellions do virtually no damage. It looks like MVP is going to attempt to bust down his own ramp, but the arc is really good. The splash damage could be out of control, and it looks like it is going to be cleaning up a lot of these Hellions. He may end up losing the battle overall, but I think that was very cost-effective for him. Even that auto turret. We had an auto turret versus auto turret battle there. I don't know if I've seen that ever. But we just saw it right there, and it looks like, is this going to be broken? Yes, it will be, but that was a pretty severe amount of units for him to lose right there. Oh, he's going to be bringing in the Vikings as well. Very effective against these ground units. And is he going to lift off the Vikings? Look at how strong, Sean, Vikings are versus Marine and Hellion. It is just outstanding how creative he's being right here.
I mean, this is such a killer composition. Another auto turret gets planted, and it turns the tide. And now it looks like MMA does have a little bit of an opportunity here, but we're seeing MVP produce Hellions 4 at a time versus the 3 at a time. But those double Vikings are just such big players in these exchanges. Another factory in production right now for MMA. He needs that barracks to come back home and build him more add-ons.
He is the add-on worker there in there, but I'm trying to figure out exactly the position that MVP's in, because these Vikings are so effective at keeping the air control, and then when the battles commence, he just lands them on the ground, and they're so effective. I definitely think that any Terran players out there who do not like this matchup can definitely learn. If you see Marines and Hellions out of your opponent, Vikings are something I think that are underutilized in these situations. So right now, MVP just has a lot of Hellions on the ground. He's going to be landing his own barracks there to block off that right side to prevent Hellions from slipping into his natural, but supplies are 86 to 87, so still fairly even here, but it's going to come down to, again, I think these Hellion positionings right now, I would give the advantage to MMA just because he does have these Vikings, which are very good there. The scan can show MVP, oh, I can't go in there, because literally he has no way of killing these Vikings on the ground. He has no Marauders, he has no siege tanks of his own, so these Vikings are just kind of like, I don't know how to say it, but they're going to feel overpowered if they're sitting on the ground just against Hellion Marine.
It's going to feel like you need to create a forum thread and let Blizzard know that these Vikings need a nerf once they start engaging in these fights. And there's the land. Beautiful positioning by MMA. Oh, tanks. They're just good units, period. And it looks like MMA is going to be able to break it. In the counting station, we see that there's still the slight lead in Hellions from MVP, but MMA doing a great job breaking through, now getting that food edge, having good control over the map. Third command center now started for MVP, but it's done for MMA and being morphed into an orbital command. And I say it's only seconds before this destructible rock starts getting some pain brought on him.
And right now we do have 2 Thors on the way from MVP. We'll see if he can utilize these correctly. If he can keep them alive, they can kill Hellions extremely quickly. They're good against the tanks, but I don't know if he's going to have enough time. This is a situation where a Terran player really wants Chrono Boost, because it could come down to the matter of seconds on if these Thors are going to get out in time. The +1 attack on the way for both players, but is there going to be a timing here where MMA can move in before these Thors kick in? Because repairing Thors is pretty darn good, Sean.
pretty darn good. Not nearly as unbalanced as Landed Vikings versus
yeah.
Hellions, but you know what? Pretty damn good nonetheless. And this is a very interesting position for MMA, actually going for this backdoor expansion rather than the gold. Felt like he didn't have enough time to take down those rocks there because he needed to advance forward and secure that position. Now the tanks are advancing up. As was stated before, those Thors do not really have any splash damage effect when they're targeted by siege tanks. They're just so big that nothing gets splashed by the tank fire. So you actually need to unsiege tanks versus them Thors. And now we finally see the gold destructible rocks being taken down. MMA might be moving fairly soon. Both players doing a little bit of rock killing, and interestingly, siege mode with no tanks.
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to figure that one out, but for
That's
now
like,
he
that's
does.
like getting water wings but having no arms.
Now, he has 2 more Thors on the way, which 4 Thors can be very good. Plus, MVP is going to be taking the high-yield expansion. I like this response from him. He is going to be vulnerable to Hellion counterattacks if he gets his Thors all the way out across the map. But if he gets his high-yield expansion up while his opponent is only getting the normal expansion, then he's got to be in an okay spot. Now, we have seen him be behind in SCVs throughout this game, so I don't know if it's going to be enough to completely catch up. But here comes the Hellions right here. They don't spot this expansion, but he's got to know that something is amiss here. And the Thor's got to be able to do a little bit of damage to those Vikings. Needs to make sure to keep those alive. So I like the positioning that MVP's in, but you can see the macro of MMA is once again superior. It was tied in supply just moments ago. He is now at about a 20 supply advantage.
You see 3 factories, a 4th factory plopping down now for MVP. Still just 3 in the main of 3, and there's a 4, that's 5 for MMA right now. We see him also again throwing down those sensor towers. Still no kills on this gold expansion. Was a very juicy opportunity for MMA, but it looks like he's just gently repositioning. Interestingly, no Vikings at all.
Landing them on the high ground here. They will take some damage from the siege tanks. It doesn't matter though, because that's going to allow the Hellions and the siege tanks from MMA to move down here. Are the Thors going to be enough? They may be taking a little bit of splash damage, but we're going to see how effective Thors are. But can they take on that many tanks, Sean? That is a lot of tanks from MMA, able to focus fire down those Thors. Now, positioning in that battle was redonkulous for MMA. Landing those Vikings on the high ground, I'm like, what are you doing? MMA says, Husky, I'm already thinking 3 moves ahead, and he was able to lock that down perfectly. This high-yield expansion going to be very vulnerable, and you can see, again, not a lot of workers killed, but those huge meching units have been killed. The positioning from MMA, I got to hand it to him. He is playing so smart. He does not want to get knocked out just yet.
Oh, no. It looks like he's sieging a little bit too close, and now we see that it looks like the tanks are not quite in range of that remaining one. But, oh, Hellions rushing up again to do that damage, and MMA doing boa constrictor style TvT, just making sure the opponent doesn't feel comfortable at any point. He's just going to continue squeezing until MVP eventually dies.
Yeah, he also has to attempt to break the contain, but I like this. A lot of Terran players, they get 1 or 2 siege tanks shooting, and they get excited and march in there to their deaths, but he's just, again, doing it very, very passively. He just has 1 tank bombarding that gas. He takes it out. Now, both players are attempting to secure their 4th bases, but I feel like the high-yield expansion for MVP is nowhere near safe. Looks like he's going to attempt to break this on the left side, just using the attack move there with those siege tanks. He does not have them in siege mode. It looks like he will be able to push this out, and that does mean that MMA will most likely have to back out on the right side as well. He only has 1 tank there. Wants to make sure to keep that alive as long as possible. And MVP now trying to set up his own contain versus that high-yield expansion, but MMA did get his siege tank sieged first, and that center tower will go down right there, so those are not free at all. But
crikey, this is totally vulnerable, Husky. There's a perfect lane for MVP, just a line going directly to this expansion. No way to pull out. MMA going on the aggression, though. Looks like we have some Blue Flame Hellions getting ready to do some dropping at the back natural. The main is now mined out. See the tanks swinging all the way around. Why send Blue Flame Hellions when you can send these giant catapults up to the top?
Absolutely, Sean. It did force the liftoff there. I'm not sure what these Hellions are doing, but they're doing exactly what they're told. Looks like he's going to drop these Hellions, but MMA was not watching that. He's going to lose the medevac as well as those, but he decides now's the time to move into this high-yield expansion, so both players now have had to give up an expansion, which I believe is going to start favoring MMA because he has taken that high yield of his own, but at this point, still about a 50 supply discrepancy. However, siege tanks, very vulnerable to Thors. Can he do the damage he needs? He's trying to micro him, but Thors are just so slow, and he does end up losing losing one of those swords. That is a huge deal moving forward here, especially if he tries to break this contain, and it does look like he may be able to. May end up losing one more Thor there before all is said and done. He does indeed. Again, 76 supply to 116, so a back and forth game here. Both players trading expansions.
And now it looks like MMA pulling back his Medivacs. We see the natural expansion. The third nat for MVP having a little bit of roasting action done. Oh, the Imba landed Vikings. And now we see, oh my gosh, MVP just gets to walk right on over here. Oh, a weird positioning right now, and all the SCVs getting pulled. He could possibly get some big shots off. Now the right side under fire. MVP continue to just do his counter boa constrictor play, because the best counter to a snake is another snake, Husky.
That is true. Snake battle is always fun to watch, but at this point, losing those units on the left side has left his units on the right side vulnerable. Is he going to be able to kill his planetary fortress or not? It's getting dangerously low. He is going to be able to get those SCVs. Need to get out of there. Splash damage on these SCVs would be huge. There's no Hellions in sight. No, they are in sight, but they weren't able to run up there and take all those out. Wasn't quite watching that. Now he is long distance mining this high yield. There are a lot of SCVs there, though, so he's at least going to be getting a little bit of income here. Needs to make sure to turn those SCVs around. Workers killed 32 by MMA to only 17 for MVP. Now MVP is still behind in supply, but he has re-secured that high yield expansion. But for how long? It looks like it will continue here. These Hellions trying to lock down those mules, but the mules are going to run out of time. So MMA, while he is ahead in supply, he does not have that high yield expansion, so he needs to do harassment here. And looks like this expansion may be vulnerable if this drop does indeed land there.
And you know, something that's really surprising to me, if we just look at the math, 32 workers killed, in the accounting station only 32 workers there. Basically, 60 workers have been made this entire game for MVP. That's very uncharacteristic of him. He normally lands that SCV production just perfectly. Meanwhile, 73 SCVs out right now, but most of them are in the front line ready to go to battle.
Also carrying their high-yield minerals. Needs to make sure to drop those off at a command center, as that is actually quite a bit of money marching around there. He is indeed going to transfer them to the expansion. SCVs are so smart. Instead of switching out their high yield for blue, they're going to go ahead and drop that off first. So he is going to get his economy back on track right now. He has so many SCVs down there that he just transferred. A huge swell of those. It looks like MVP, if he can lock this down, will the SCVs be able to escape here? The Hellions here going to be able to even up the score here a little bit. They need to focus fire just a little bit better. He is indeed going to do that, but siege tanks from MMA swinging in from the right side. The SCVs are going to get taken out, though, but it looks like MVP is going to be losing this army. He has killed every single SCV, but can he deal with these siege tanks?
Oh my goodness. He lost like 30 workers there. That's incredible, but that's fine. MMA has another troop popping up. Operation level 2 commence, and now we see some SCVs from MVP stepping into the fray, trying to break through this fight. In the unit counting station, we see that the worker count is very, very low for MVP. It's down to 29 versus the 53 for MMA. MMA now approaching this expansion, encroaching on MVP territory, and oh my goodness, Husky, MMA might have just been able to secure himself another win. He just needs to clean up this bottom right expo.
Wow, the 25-minute SCV rush has never looked more terrifying. MMA finding a perfect window to move in there because there's only a few tanks, plus Thors shoot very slowly. Now, it does look like MVP trying to push back. Is he bringing SCVs of his own? Yes, he is. Is he going to be able to get surrounded, do enough damage here? He has cleaned out the Hellions, so the siege tanks will be vulnerable to these SCVs because they're going to be right on top of this Thor, trying to kill everything off. This is such a nail-biter. However, MVP is still behind in the supply. He is going to be killing off. Hellions have slipped into his expansion down there. His high-yield expansion is getting mined out. He needs to get more units up there, though, right now. And, God, Sean, this game is so close, but I feel like MVP, while he has been able to hold on, his supply may be too far behind. That's what we're seeing right now with these siege tanks going to be rolling down here. It will be taking out these units for MVP. Does he have anything left?
Amazing control by MVP. It looks like MVP defends again. If MVP just sends a pair of his own Hellions up to the top left, he will decimate the entire economy of MMA. We see almost no workers, almost no minerals back there up at the top. MVP continuing to press onward. 7 to 52 SCVs more are getting transferred up to this top left every single day. MMA starting to realize how vulnerable that expansion really is, and now transferring a lot of units there to defend.
MVP, this is all he's got left. You were mentioning 7 SCVs. That means he is not going to have the economy to reproduce this. So I think it's going to come down to this expansion. Can MVP lock it down, or is it going to get, or is he going to be able to hold it, and he is going on the high ground right now. So MVP losing his high yield expansion of his own, though. It does look like MMA confident that he can secure his own expansion, at least deciding to lift it off to save those units. But MVP only has a couple of Thors. It has been whittled down to just one. Nice focus firing there from MMA, and at this point, MVP is going to try and rely on just one Thor to win this game. I don't know if it's going to be enough here, as he has no economy. I don't know if he's even mining right now. The SCVs did transfer back over there and are vulnerable to these siege tanks. No, it does get taken out here. MMA,
no.
Perfect positioning there, is going to hold, but here come the Hellions right now to try and do a
sprinting
lot
up.
of damage.
This is the entire economy of MMA, and it's, oh my god, actually going to live. On the left, MVP holding this watchtower. MVP has been under 50 food for so long. And another expansion planted for MMA. He is still doing quite good on the command center count. Has 3 there along the top of the map. There are the tanks awkwardly positioned. Again, these destructible rocks have never been taken down all game long. But Blue Flame Hellions quite good against anything called a worker. And did that expansion command center actually burn down? That would be an amazing, amazing kill for MMA, and it looks like we are about to hit the 30-minute mark, and MMA may have just barely pulled off a win. And one of the most back-and-forth TvTs ever.
Yeah, very, very epic TvT. MMA, we've seen him time and time again, though, be very cost-effective with the few units that he has, but there is going to be the GG from that game. What an extremely legendary TvT, Sean. I mean, their supply counts were never completely maxed out, but the action was non-stop, and MMA was just able to get a slight advantage even against those Thors, which is not something that is easy to do. Lots of counterattacking with Hellions back and forth, and you know what that means, Sean? We are all tied up. 2-2.
Oh my god, MMA has been pulling miracles left and right in both Game 3 and 4. All he needs to do is pray for the miracles to just keep on coming.
For one more game, Sean.
One time.
Oh, God, so good. So whoever wins this is going to advance to the semifinals. The loser will be dropping down into the loser's bracket. But I got to say, they're showing us just how strong of players they are. So even if they get down in the loser's bracket, I still would honestly expect to see one of them close to the finals. So I don't even know what to say about that game. I'm going to have to take a quick breather. Going to go have to cool off with some nice cold water because that was amazing. We have to mentally prepare ourselves, Sean, for game number 5. I have no idea what's going to happen, but we're going to find out soon. And, of course, we'll see you guys next time in the deciding game, game number 5, right after you wait for yourself to click on it or something.